Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate and a special interview recorded by satellite with the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mehmood Qureshi. Foreign Minister, terrorist attacks in Lahore, Islamabad, Rawalpindi and Chakwal all within the space of a few days. And now Baitullah Masood is threatening 2 attacks a week. Would you accept that not just the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, but today Pakistan itself has become the most dangerous place in the world?
What you have to realize that terrorism and extremism is a global phenomena, and it is not confined to Pakistan, and it will not remain confined to Pakistan. We are facing the challenge and we will confront them.
I understand. Let me though for a moment talk to you specifically about the situation in your country. Today the Taliban is in virtual control of Swat, and that's just 160 kilometers from your capital. They hand out brutal justice. Your Supreme Court is horrified, yet your Attorney General is helpless. He's gone on record to say that the writ of the state no longer runs in Swat. And now on top of that, even your peace deal seems to be falling apart. Can you accept that this is a very worrying situation?
It's a concern. I will not deny that it is a concern, but you also have to understand that let's not exaggerate things. Swat has been under pressure, but there are certain pockets of Swat that are under pressure. The whole of Swat is neither under Taliban control nor is being attacked by them. There are pockets, and we will clear those pockets.
Okay.
Now we have engaged with people because we feel that dialogue is one of the options. People who are willing to lay down arms, we are going to engage with them. And not just Pakistan, even the US strategy, the US new policies also on similar lines.
That point, Minister? You see, you're saying don't exaggerate. You're referring to US strategy, but General Petraeus told the US Congress last week that Taliban and Al-Qaeda could take down Pakistan. The New York Times on the 6th quotes leading American experts who believe that Pakistan faces internal collapse in just 6 months. How do you respond to those views, not from an Indian, but from your allies and some of the most senior officials in Washington?
Well, they are friends and they're allies, and they have been in Afghanistan 7 years themselves. You know, they are facing challenges in Afghanistan. Despite the technology, the money, the wherewithal, have they resolved every issue in Afghanistan?
So are you saying they're exaggerating about Pakistan?
I think we have to keep things in the correct perspective. Yes, we are concerned. Yes, there is a challenge, but Pakistan is not collapsing. Pakistan is not a few pockets. Pakistan is a strong, vibrant country. The people of Pakistan will defend Pakistan.
All right. On the 27th of March, President Obama announced his new AFPAC strategy. Of Pakistan, he says, and I quote, "We will insist that action be taken, one way or another, when we have intelligence about high-level terrorist targets." Is Washington about to crack the whip?
You don't crack whips with the friends and allies. You work with them. You build trust. You build confidence. And you have to get involved in an engaging, cooperative environment. And that is what we intend to do. We've had very good talks. We've had very good bilateral and trilateral talks when I was in Washington. And now when Ambassador Holbrooke was in Islamabad, I was in The Hague. We had good meetings, and we are making good progress. I think they are also beginning to understand what the challenge is, because if they were doing everything right, then there was no need for a strategy review. The fact that they reviewed their strategy is an acknowledgement that their strategy wasn't working.
Okay.
And what Pakistan was saying, adopt a regional, adopt a holistic, adopt a comprehensive approach, has been adopted.
Well, you're suggesting that, in fact, they've reviewed their strategy and taken on board your thinking, but let me point out that one of the principal concerns in Washington, it's been echoed in the last few days by Robert Gates, the Defense Secretary, by Richard Holbrooke, by Admiral Michael Mullen, is that elements of the ISI are involved or have links with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Earlier, when India made this accusation, you responded indignantly. Now that your American allies are saying the same thing, how do you respond to them?
My response was pretty clear when we had our meeting 2 days ago. People forget the positive contribution that ISI has made in this fight against extremism and terrorism. Without ISI's help, you could not have apprehended the 700 or so Al-Qaeda operatives. ISI has done more than any other organization has done. Now, we are in the process of restructuring ISI. ISI has been cleansed. We have the present leadership of ISI is very clear that this challenge is our challenge.
You said You said a very important thing a moment ago, Minister. You said that the ISI has been cleansed. Are you suggesting that there was a period prior to the cleansing when the old unclean ISI might have had links with Taliban and Al-Qaeda, but that's not the case now?
Well, I'm telling you, we are following a hands-off policy. We are pursuing a policy which is, in our view, in Pakistan's interest, in the interest of the region, and it's in consonance with our allies.
All right.
I think the ISI is making a positive contribution, and I'm of the view that if there are opinions that need to be expressed, they should not be done through the media. There are diplomatic channels available, and they should be used.
In other words, the Americans should speak to you directly, not to the media, and not embarrass you by talking to their press.
Well, you see, you have to understand that the people operating on the ground, they have to be taken on board.
Absolutely.
Now, if you are accusing them, then who do you want to cooperate with? Who do you want to work with? It seems that they are confused themselves.
The Americans are confused themselves. All right, that's your point. Let's move on and talk a little about President Obama's AFPAC strategy. He's proposed a contact group for Afghanistan and Pakistan, which will include India. Is Pakistan happy for India to play a role?
India is a regional player, and I think India can play a positive role, and India should play a positive role. What the Indians are forgetting, that this is a cancer. It will grow. It has no borders. It sees no boundaries. It looks at no nationalities. It will creep all over the region.
Okay.
India should act responsibly.
Now, President Obama, side by side, has also committed himself to pursue constructive diplomacy with both India and Pakistan. How do you, as Foreign Minister of Pakistan, interpret that?
You see, if we have to concentrate on the western border, obviously we have to be comfortable on the eastern side. If there are tensions between Pakistan and India on the eastern border, we lose focus. It is in our mutual interest that we remain focused on the western border.
Can
and
I
for
interrupt?
that, sure.
In his Washington Post article of January the 28th, President Zardari forcefully argued for addressing the question of Kashmir in some meaningful way. Although Kashmir is not a part of the official mandate given by President Obama to Richard Holbrooke, would you, in Pakistan, push for it to be made part of that agenda?
What I'm saying is, we have outstanding issues, and Kashmir is one of them. For normalization, for good relations, we have to address them. We had in place a process called the composite dialogue. Unfortunately, the tragic Mumbai incident put that on hold. I would be interested in restarting that process, because I feel that was a meaningful process. We were making incremental progress. Okay, there were no, there was no great movement, but there was progress, and it is essential. Now, if you block channels of communication, what are you doing? By doing that, you are strengthening militancy, and you are promoting and strengthening the hands of terror.
In London last week, the Indian Prime Minister said that the composite dialogue between India and Pakistan couldn't start until and unless the Mumbai accused were brought to justice in Pakistan, and secondly, until the infrastructure of terror was dismantled. Are you prepared to accept those two conditions to start the peace process?
No, what I'm saying is, what we have to understand, there are no conditions, and we will not accept conditions, but what I want to tell you is that bringing people to justice, the culprits of Mumbai to justice, is in our mutual interest. Pakistan seriously wants to do it. We want to cooperate with you, and we want to move ahead. We cannot do it alone. We can do it collectively.
Okay.
That's one.
Let's then
Secondly, you say Pakistan should dismantle the terrorist network. We should do it in our own interest, not for you, in our own interest. And Pakistan has taken very positive steps, which are not being recognized, and you are overlooking them. We have arrested some very high-profile people. We have proscribed some very important organizations. We have seized and we have frozen assets. We have, taken a number of steps, and this is an ongoing process. Our troops, we have over 100,000 troops deployed on the western border dealing with extremism and terrorism. These are all positive steps to dismantle and to challenge extremists and terrorists.
Minister, let's take a break at that point. In part two, I want to talk extensively about the subject you've just touched upon, the way Pakistan is responding to the accused of the Mumbai terror attack. That's in a moment's time after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and a special interview by satellite with the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mehmood Qureshi. Let's come to the steps you're taking in connection with, in fact, the Mumbai terror strike. Let me put to you a simple starting question. It's now almost a month since India handed over to you the answer to the 30 questions you had posed. Are you satisfied with what you've been told by India?
What we've received answers to our questions. We will look at that as a positive development. Everything has not been answered, but we will proceed on in a cooperative environment, and if more is required, we will share it with you.
What are the areas where the answers are deficient?
At this stage, it will not be responsible on my part to comment, because the investigation and the examination is going on in the Ministry of Interior. But what I want to convey to you is we are serious.
Rahman Malik, the advisor in the Interior Ministry, has said that successful prosecution of people like Lakhvi and Zarar Shah depends on the information you get from India. Have you got enough from India to prosecute and bring to conviction both these men?
Well, we will build on it, and if more is required, we will ask for it. We will ask for it in our mutual interest. What we need is evidence which is legally tenable. Now, there is evidence and there is legally tenable evidence. What we require is, if we want to prosecute them, then we want to take a foolproof case to court so that we can take it to its logical conclusion.
A moment ago, you referred to, in passing, some of the deficiencies in the answers India had given. Are you saying that some of the information from India is not legally tenable evidence? Is that the point you were making?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if more is required, we will ask for it.
Okay.
But we will use positively whatever has been passed on to us. We want to go ahead with this investigation in a sincere fashion.
All right, you've made that point about your sincerity several times. Let me ask you 2-3 touchstone questions as far as the Indian audience is concerned, which will, in a sense, be the basis for them judging your sincerity. First, Hafiz Muhammad Saeed. Last month, his detention was extended by 2 months, but do you propose to press charges against him or simply detain him?
Well, I'm saying everything is being examined. And if there is a case, then the cases will be pursued.
So in other words, charges could be pressed, but you don't know whether or when.
I cannot commit unless I have seen the investigations.
What about Masood Azhar? Is it still your position that you don't know where he is?
I honestly don't know where he is.
You really mean you have no idea where he is?
No, I don't.
Pakistan has acknowledged that Ajmal Kasab is Pakistani, but beyond that, you haven't responded to his appeal for consular access, nor have you asked the Indian authorities for permission to question him. Does this mean that Pakistan is washing its hands of Ajmal Kasab?
No. What we are saying is we have to ask for some of the statements that he has made to the Indian authorities. We are not aware of them. We will, as I said, it is being examined, and the scene of the crime was Mumbai. We feel that the principle is from the crime to the criminal, and we are pursuing that strategy.
As I hear your answers regarding Hafiz Muhammad Saeed, Ajmal Kasab, and even Masood Azhar, things are either being examined or you don't know about them. That may not be necessarily reassuring to Indian ears.
Let us not jump the gun. Let us not be impatient. These are very serious and very delicate matters, and we have to proceed very carefully.
Okay.
And we have to proceed without suspecting each other. Now, if you keep suspecting us, then we will not be able to move forward. What I am trying to convey to you is, let's drop the suspicion. Let's join hands and work together in our interest.
One reason why there is suspicion, if I may point towards it, is that, for example, the FBI has sought access to question the people you've detained. Now, the FBI is not an Indian institution, it's an American institution. America are your closest allies, and yet that access has been denied to the FBI as well. Why?
See, the question is, if we require their assistance, we will ask for it. At this stage, we do not feel that their assistance was required. But if in future assistance is required, the question of access will be discussed and a decision taken accordingly.
People look at the increasing vulnerability of Pakistan to terror. It's been so obvious to everyone over the last 6 weeks in particular. And in India, they say, is this government in Islamabad strong enough to attend to the Mumbai terror attack, or will they be deflected by their own problems and their own weakness? What can you say that will reassure Indians that you are fully committed to tackling the Mumbai terror accused and that you're not going to waver in any way?
We are fully committed to fight terror, whether an incident takes place in India or anywhere else in the world, or any incident that takes place in Pakistan.
And regardless of your own political problems at home, you will be dedicated to fighting the terror India faces?
There is a complete consensus. All stakeholders in Pakistan are on board that we will not surrender to terrorism. And let me tell you, despite modern technology, terrorists have reached far-flung places. They have reached not just Mumbai, they have hit New York, they've reached London, they've hit Madrid.
The problem is most of that terror emanates from Pakistan, Minister, which is why the world is so concerned. But India is most concerned because we are your neighbor. You are our western, we are your eastern neighbor. We are the first and most immediate international victim of the terror that comes from Pakistan.
Okay. Now, if you are concerned, and I can understand your concern, you can only address that concern by cooperating with Pakistan and not accusing Pakistan. That negative policy will not be in your interest.
So that, in a sense, is the message you're sending the Indian people. Cooperate with us in your own interest. It's the only way of ending terror.
Mutual interest.
All right, Minister. Thank you very much for speaking to Devil's Advocate.
Thank you.
That was Shah Mehmood Qureshi, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan.